Networking versus applying online. You may be stuck and trying to apply for roles at the moment. In a busy full-time job, it's really hard to get the time and know where to spend your time when you're trying to get that next job. In this video, we are going to go through the advantages and disadvantages of each strategy, where you can spend your time, and how to choose a job search strategy so you can get that job. Hi, I'm Beck McIntosh and welcome to Career Jam. We're talking all about networking versus online applications, and I am going to show you some of the things, tips and tricks that you can do to get that job. Let's get started. I always say networking is a little bit like investing in Bitcoin. If you'd have done it 10 years ago, by now you'd be driving the Lambo. So what's the point? Well, networking is both a short and a long-term play. So whatever you're doing now, it's not going to be a waste of time. The difference I find between networking and applying online is there is always a front door. And when someone has a job advertised, there's a ginormous queue out the front door for that one job. Everyone knows that one point of entry, they'll be applying that way. And then there's always the side door, which I find is networking. So side door, window, however you like to skip that crowd and create a different strategy to get into that organization, that's where you'll find the networker. So for those of you who are feeling a little bit like an introvert in this process and dreading the idea of spending your time networking, networking doesn't have to be just face-to-face. It's online, offline. All forms come together so you can build strength in your network. If you are a professional with more than 10 years experience, imagine the size of your network. Just take a look at your LinkedIn, download an Excel spreadsheet which has all of your contacts in it, and just take a moment to look and audit who are already in your network. So let's have a look at applying online. So when we talk about applying online, Glassdoor suggests that around 250 applications is the average that each employer will receive for one job role. And from this, they're then shortlisted to between 4 to 6 candidates, with only one person getting a job. So if you're a gambling person and you like to do your stats, it can be quite a tricky game to play to put all of your time into applying online without diversifying the strategy of how you get that job. In terms of networking, they say that between 70 and 80% of jobs are unadvertised and people have got those roles through their networks. So just start by putting the radar on, and stage one is awareness. Being aware of the roles that you're seeing advertised and just keeping note of who in your network is sharing these. So the advantages of networking is that it's really coming from the network connections you already have. So it's a warm introduction, and chances are you've already established your reputation in the field and your credibility. So the connection is just leveraging the distance that you've already traveled in building that career. The other thing with networking is that it is something that you can readily apply week to week in sharing the information and just reminding people that you're out there. So a step one of activating your network is really starting to share, and I don't mean going all out on a personal rebrand. It's really week to week sharing things about what you're doing. So you might choose every 3 weeks, every 4 or 6 weeks to share an article about the area that you're very interested in or have expertise in. It might be sharing something or a win from your team, a win or an award that you've received, something where you can celebrate your success. But additionally, what you're doing is you're reminding your network, hey, I'm out here, I've got things to talk about, I've got expertise to share. Don't forget me when you're hiring that next role. That's what we're actually saying to an employer, and that's what we can continually do when we're doing the networking piece. This also helps headhunters search for you. So if they know that you're active, that you're sharing your expertise, and that you're easily found through a platform like LinkedIn, then these are one of the ways that we can highlight to our network and signal that we're ready to look. So a disadvantage of networking is that you have to be comfortable with taking risks. The former IBM CEO has a great quote where she said, "Growth and comfort don't coexist. I've always learned to take on challenges I've never come across before." So these are the things we need to do if we're going to be okay with networking. The essence of networking is what I feel two-way value creation. And often that value that you're looking for may be that job. It might be to understand more about an industry, to build your expertise. And for the other person, it might be as simple as them sharing their knowledge, and their value creation is coming from them being an expert, sharing their knowledge, and helping you get that next step. If you find a champion, don't second guess it and wonder why they're wanting to help you. Embrace the opportunity and take their time respectfully. Many organisations these days are using what we call an applicant tracking system, or an ATS. That's essentially just an online workflow which takes you through the different steps of your application. Technology is applied at different stages, be it that phone interview, and it might be a phone interview that's assessing the language that you're using, and they might be applying AI or machine learning to understand the patterns, the intonation, the positivity or negativity. There's different levers that they can choose to test. In an online application, in the process, they may be assessing those activities through an interview, through written test. But generally at that first spot where you're applying, you'll be needing to use keywords almost like you're an SEO guru. So those keywords are the essential and the desirable criteria that they really want you to meet, and understand that you've got demonstrated experience against each of these. In an applicant tracking system, essentially the software is scanning through the document and it's understanding what keywords that you've mentioned in relation to the job role in the way that they've written it. What some of the systems can do is that if you don't have a certain metric and a certain level meeting 70% of the keywords, then your application is put in the thanks but no thanks pile. The key is that once you have a system, there are, hackers all the way around the world that can look into that. So some of the things that I've heard that people do is entirely back up their document with the keywords written in white text, and they put it as a layer behind. But I think once you have some of these hacking systems in place, then often the system then becomes a little bit more sophisticated to manage the tips and tricks that people do to make their way around it. So if you're going to bend the rules in applicant tracking systems, then why not just try some networking? If you're applying online for an organisation, especially for a large organisation like Google or Amazon, often there is a referral system, and the employee who's referring you may be incentivized for you to jump into that process. Maybe they get a bit of a kickback or a bonus as part of a successful referral. Because let's face it, when it comes to networking, it's all about trust. And if you're going to refer someone, they're going to be someone that you trust, and that value is leveraged by the organization. So networking at its essence is about trust, and referrals is almost like a networking play for organizations. They're leveraging your network to get that referral. So if you are applying online, explore the opportunity of connections you have to that organization and the chance that you can get a referral in. And that often hops you over that first hurdle of that applicant tracking system, so you won't go in the pot with 600 other applications. You will skip a step and you'll get through the stage. No guarantee you're going to get all the way through, but often it's a really helpful way for you to just skip over a couple of hundred applicants in that process. The second step, and often hugely overlooked by someone that is so desperate to get out of their organization they're applying for 40 jobs a week, is tailoring your application. You have to make the organization feel like you care. What a surprise. But most applications that organizations receive can be dumped pretty much straight away because there's not even any connection to the job role, the criteria, the organizational values. If it's a really strong organization in terms of the things that they do and value, then your application in some ways needs to reflect that. So whether that's your summary statement, whether that's your cover letter, hitting those things in your criteria by maybe the experience that you've had in the past. All these things are really important to do if you want to make that impression and stand out from other applicants. This is a competitive process. If you're going down the online application route and you're going 100% in on this format, then actually you have to acknowledge this competitive process. You need to find that unique value that you have to separate you from the crowd. Some of the disadvantages to the online application process is transparency. The process doesn't seem very transparent at all. Once you send off your resume into that deep dark hole, it seems like you'll never know when you'll ever see it again, and you'll never be able to quantify or qualify what got you in and what happened that you've never ever heard from this organization ever again. If we take it one step back and we can look at how the employer actually advertises their role and where they advertise their role. These days with online applications, you can see roles in everywhere from Indeed, Monster, Seek, professional associations. There is a proliferation of organizations and jobs boards where you can post your role. But the trick is, how do you find these? And one of the first things you can do in this online application process is create a list of all the organizational places that you need to follow to find out what these jobs boards are. Sometimes in organizations you can actually upload your resume or CV to a jobs pool where it just goes in a pot, so you can try that method. Other ways you can do is follow them on LinkedIn or subscribe to newsletters from the professional organization or the organization themselves in terms of job alerts. So make sure as a first step that you're actually becoming aware of the roles that are being advertised. The second step is understanding what they call the role. One of the things you can do to start off with, if you've been out of the field for a while or it's even been a matter of months, names in organizations can change and not necessarily be related to what you'd natively search on. It's kind of a bit of a weird thing that employers are getting more and more creative about what they call a particular job role, which makes it really hard for you as a candidate to try and search on it. So you might like to search on singular skills. Just take a list of skills that you've identified from your resume and pop them into one of your favorite jobs board and see what roles are coming up. Because sometimes in the world of technology, there is a hybridization of roles where they're sort of mashing up two roles together and calling it something new that you've never ever heard of, but you have the exact skill sets and experience to apply for. So one of the things you can do in that strategy is definitely mix up how you're searching for jobs, traditionally looking at those jobs boards, but also mixing up that job search with looking at those singular skill sets. So, networking versus online applications. Let's summarize where you would spend your time. So if networking means that 80% of people are getting their jobs through this process, then I would say you need to spend 80% of your available time on networking and 20% applying for jobs online. You always want to diversify your strategy like any type of investment, whether that's monetarily or with your time. You want to make sure that you're diversifying the investments that you make and making sure that you're not missing opportunities by taking all your time doing networking or all your time doing online applications. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you've got any tips, tricks or hacks for online interviews or networking, please place them in the comments below. I'd love for you to like and subscribe and so you can join the jam.